Emotional Intelligence, a narrative summary inspired by Daniel Goleman's best-selling book. Success has traditionally been associated with intelligence. We measure intelligence through grades, degrees, test scores, technical knowledge, and professional achievements. We assume that the smartest person in the room should naturally become the most successful. But real life often tells a different story. There are brilliant people who struggle to manage their emotions, communicate with others, handle criticism, or maintain relationships. And there are people with average academic abilities who become exceptional leaders, partners, parents, and professionals because they understand people and themselves. What makes the difference? According to Emotional Intelligence, Daniel Goleman argues that traditional intelligence is only one part of the equation. Our ability to recognize emotions, manage ourselves, understand others, build relationships, and respond wisely under pressure can have an enormous influence on how successful and fulfilled we become. Emotional intelligence does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending to remain positive all the time. It means becoming aware of what we feel, understanding why we feel it, and learning to choose our response rather than allowing emotions to control us. This summary explores Goleman's central ideas about emotional intelligence and how developing these abilities can transform our personal lives, careers, relationships, leadership, and overall well-being. The hidden power behind human behavior. Imagine two people receiving the same criticism. The first immediately becomes defensive. Their heart races. Anger rises. They respond harshly and later regret what they said. The second person feels the same initial surge of emotion. But instead of reacting immediately, they pause. They recognize the emotion. They consider what was said. Then they respond calmly. The difference isn't that the second person has no emotions. They have learned to work with them. This is the essence of emotional intelligence. Our emotions influence almost everything we do. They affect our decisions, our attention, our relationships, our motivation, our reactions, and even our perception of reality. Learning to understand them gives us greater control over our lives. Intelligence is more than an IQ score. Traditional intelligence measures abilities such as reasoning, memory, mathematics, language, and problem-solving. These abilities matter, but they do not tell the whole story. Someone may be exceptionally intelligent, yet struggle to cooperate with colleagues. Another person may not have extraordinary academic abilities, but may inspire an entire team. Why? Because success also depends on emotional skills. Can you remain calm under pressure? Can you understand what another person is feeling? Can you recover from disappointment? Can you motivate yourself? Can you resolve conflict? These abilities form emotional intelligence, and they can be developed. The 5 elements of emotional intelligence. Goleman's framework centers around several interconnected abilities: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, social skills. Together, they form a powerful system for understanding ourselves and interacting effectively with others. The journey begins with awareness. Self-awareness, know what you feel. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It means recognizing your emotions while they are happening. Are you angry, anxious, jealous, excited, disappointed, afraid? Many people experience emotions without actually identifying them. They simply react. Self-awareness creates distance between the emotion and the reaction. Instead of saying, "I am angry," you begin thinking, "I am experiencing anger." That small distinction is powerful. It reminds you that the emotion is something you are experiencing, not something that completely defines you. Understand the source of your emotions. Recognizing an emotion is only the beginning. The next question is, why am I feeling this? Perhaps you are irritated because someone interrupted you. But perhaps the deeper issue is that you already feel unappreciated. Maybe you're frustrated with your colleague. But the real problem is exhaustion. Emotions often contain information. They signal that something matters to us. Learning to interpret that information helps us respond to the underlying problem instead of simply reacting to the surface emotion. Emotional hijacking. One of Goleman's important ideas is that strong emotions can temporarily overwhelm rational thinking. A sudden insult can trigger anger before we have time to evaluate what happened. A frightening event can trigger panic. A perceived threat can cause us to react defensively. The emotional response can arrive faster than conscious reasoning. This is sometimes described as an emotional hijacking. The problem isn't that emotions exist. The problem is allowing an intense emotional reaction to determine our behavior before our reasoning has a chance to catch up. The solution is awareness and practice. Pause, breathe, observe, then respond. That brief space can prevent enormous mistakes. Self-regulation, control your response. Emotional intelligence does not mean controlling every emotion. That would be impossible. Instead, it means controlling what you do with those emotions. Anger may arise. You don't have to shout. Fear may appear. You don't have to run away. Disappointment may hurt. You don't have to give up. Self-regulation gives us the ability to experience emotions without becoming their prisoner. The emotion can be real without controlling the action. The power of the pause. One of the simplest emotional intelligence skills is learning to pause. Before replying to an insulting message. Pause. Before making an angry decision. Pause. Before sending the email you might regret. Pause. The pause creates choice. Without it, emotions often choose for us. With it, we regain control. A few seconds of awareness can prevent hours, days, or even years of unnecessary consequences. Anger is information, not instruction. Anger can be useful. It tells us that something feels wrong. Perhaps a boundary has been crossed. Perhaps an expectation has been violated. Perhaps we feel ignored or disrespected. But anger should be treated as information, not instruction. Feeling angry doesn't mean we must attack. It means something deserves attention. Once we understand the message behind the emotion, we can choose a constructive response. Motivation comes from within. Emotional intelligence also influences motivation. Some people require constant external rewards. Money, praise, recognition, promotions. Others are motivated by deeper internal goals. Learning, purpose, mastery, contribution, meaning. Goleman emphasizes the importance of intrinsic motivation. When motivation comes from within, setbacks become easier to handle. You continue because the goal matters to you, not simply because someone is rewarding you. Delayed gratification. One of the most important components of emotional intelligence is the ability to delay immediate pleasure for a more valuable future reward. Study instead of scrolling. Save instead of spending. Practice instead of procrastinating. Exercise instead of choosing immediate comfort. The ability to resist short-term impulses creates long-term advantages. Self-control is not about denying every pleasure. It is about choosing consciously rather than automatically. Optimism and resilience. Life inevitably produces setbacks. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't assume failure means everything is hopeless. Instead, they maintain the belief that circumstances can improve. This is optimism in a practical sense. Not blind positivity. Not pretending problems don't exist. But believing that action can influence outcomes. Optimistic people recover more quickly because they interpret setbacks as temporary rather than permanent definitions of themselves. Resilience grows from this perspective. Empathy, understand other people. Self-awareness turns inward. Empathy turns outward. Empathy means recognizing and understanding another person's emotional experience. It doesn't necessarily mean agreeing with them. It means trying to see the world from their perspective. When someone is angry, ask, what might they be experiencing? When someone becomes quiet, what might they be feeling? When someone makes a mistake, what pressures might they be facing? Empathy replaces immediate judgment with curiosity. Listening is more than hearing. Many people listen while preparing their response. They wait for their turn to speak. Emotionally intelligent people listen differently. They pay attention to words, tone, facial expressions, body language, silence. They try to understand the emotion behind the message. When people feel genuinely heard, trust grows. Sometimes the greatest form of support is simply giving another person your full attention. Emotional intelligence in relationships. Relationships are shaped by emotional responses. Small misunderstandings can become major conflicts when people react impulsively. A harsh comment leads to another. Defensiveness creates more defensiveness. Eventually, neither person remembers what the original disagreement was about. Emotional intelligence interrupts this cycle. Instead of asking, how do I win this argument? Ask, how can we understand what is actually happening? That shift can transform relationships. Social skills create influence. Emotional intelligence is not only about managing yourself. It also involves navigating social situations effectively. Building trust. Communicating clearly. Resolving conflict. Cooperating. Encouraging others. Influencing without manipulation. People with strong social skills understand that relationships are built through countless small interactions. Respect creates trust. Trust creates cooperation. Cooperation creates stronger teams. Leadership is an emotional skill. A leader's emotional state affects everyone around them. A leader who constantly panics creates anxiety. A leader who remains calm during difficult situations creates stability. A leader who listens creates trust. A leader who humiliates people creates fear. Technical competence matters, but emotional intelligence determines how effectively that competence is translated into leadership. The best leaders understand both tasks and people. The emotional climate of a workplace. Organizations have emotional environments. Some workplaces create fear. Employees hide mistakes. Communication becomes defensive. Innovation decreases. Other workplaces create psychological safety. People can ask questions, admit mistakes, offer ideas, challenge assumptions, learn. Leaders play an enormous role in shaping this environment. Emotions are contagious. A leader's attitude can influence an entire team. Conflict can become an opportunity. Conflict is inevitable. People have different priorities, personalities, expectations, perspectives. The goal isn't to eliminate every disagreement. It is to handle disagreement intelligently. Emotionally intelligent people separate the person from the problem. They listen before responding. They acknowledge valid concerns. They communicate clearly. They search for solutions rather than victories. Conflict handled well can strengthen relationships rather than destroy them. Children and emotional intelligence. Goleman's ideas extend beyond the workplace. Children can learn emotional skills. They can learn to identify emotions. Express them appropriately. Understand other people's feelings. Handle frustration. Delay gratification. Solve conflicts. Parents and teachers play a critical role. Children learn not only from what adults say, but from how adults behave. A parent who calmly manages anger teaches emotional regulation more effectively than a lecture about controlling emotions. Emotional habits can be changed. Perhaps one of the most encouraging ideas is that emotional intelligence is not fixed. We can become more self-aware, more patient, more empathetic, better listeners, better communicators. The brain can learn new patterns through repeated practice. Every time we pause instead of reacting. Every time we listen instead of interrupting. Every time we choose empathy instead of judgment. We strengthen a new emotional habit. Growth happens through repetition. The importance of emotional vocabulary. You cannot manage emotions you cannot identify. There is a difference between saying, "I feel bad," and identifying, "I feel disappointed. I feel anxious. I feel ignored. I feel overwhelmed. I feel embarrassed." A richer emotional vocabulary creates greater self-awareness. The more accurately we name an emotion, the easier it becomes to understand and manage it. Emotional intelligence and success. Traditional intelligence can help someone enter a profession. Emotional intelligence often determines how far they go. Technical skills may get you hired. Communication determines how effectively you collaborate. Knowledge may earn respect. Character determines whether people trust you. Intelligence can solve problems. Emotional intelligence helps you work with the people solving them. The two forms of intelligence are not enemies. They complement one another. Small emotional choices create big results. A single angry reaction may damage a relationship. A single thoughtful response may strengthen it. One impulsive decision can create months of problems. One moment of self-control can prevent them. Our lives are shaped by countless emotional choices. The ability to respond wisely in small moments eventually creates a powerful pattern. Emotional intelligence is therefore not one grand achievement. It is a daily practice. Final thoughts. Emotional intelligence challenges the traditional idea that intelligence alone determines success. Daniel Goleman shows that our ability to understand and manage emotions can be just as important as our intellectual abilities. The way we respond to stress, criticism, conflict, disappointment, and other people can profoundly influence the quality of our lives. The journey begins with self-awareness. When we recognize our emotions, we gain the ability to regulate them. When we regulate ourselves, we become better equipped to listen, empathize, communicate, and build meaningful relationships. These abilities then extend into leadership, teamwork, parenting, and professional success. The central message is simple but powerful. Emotions are not obstacles to intelligence, they are part of intelligence. The goal is not to suppress feelings or become emotionless. It is to understand what our emotions are telling us and choose our responses consciously. In the end, emotional intelligence is the ability to remain human while becoming wiser about how we respond. We cannot control every emotion that enters our minds, nor can we control how other people behave. But we can learn to recognize what we feel, pause before reacting, understand the emotions of others, and choose actions that reflect our values. That ability can transform an argument into a conversation, a setback into a lesson, a workplace into a team, and an ordinary relationship into a meaningful one. True intelligence is not simply knowing more. It is knowing yourself well enough to respond to life with awareness, empathy, and wisdom.